Okay everyone, welcome back to another video on the channel. Today we're back on GT Sport and we're back with the FIA Manufacturer's final top 24 race of the official season 3. You can see this race again was not the greatest for myself. If you would have seen it on the points, you would have seen it on Twitter. It didn't go down the best. I don't know what it is with these lobbies, but as soon as I get in top 24 lobbies, the force feedback never feels the same as an online practice lobby. It feels lighter, like there's not as much force feedback in the wheel, and it feels strange. So I don't know what was going on, but I didn't manage to hook up a qualifying lap. Managed to get down to, I think it was a 32.2. We'll get to myself towards the back end of the grid. I really didn't do a great job. You can see there, starting in P8, I think is TRL Lightning. Again, he also didn't manage to get the same type of, like, he was in the 31s in the practice lobby I was in. And you see 4 starting in P9, done a bit better lap. I knew I could have beat that lap, which is a bit frustrating because I'd been in the 31s quite a few times in the online practice lobbies, and that was one with keeping the limits with 100%, because this track was actually fairly easy to judge the limits on. You see I'm starting quite far back down in I think it's P15. Not the greatest qualifying, I think, but when you have a look, I was only 3 tenths off a pole position. It shows you how close these lobbies are. You can see just over 3 tenths is P14's M Thomas, myself just over P10, 3 tenths off of P1, and then there's a bit of a gap to P16. So the top 15 separated by 3 tenths of a second. It's insane how close this qualifying was, and it shows you. I think if I would have I got oversteer on the exit of the corner on my best lap, and the rear went a bit loose, and that loses you probably about a tenth to 2 tenths all the way down the straight, because you just don't carry as much speed and you're losing all the way. So maybe if I would have hooked that up, I could have got down to a very low 32 or maybe a 31.9. It would have been close, but unfortunately it didn't happen. Force did a better job in qualifying, hooked his lap up, and he's starting ahead of me, and I've got a lot to do at the start of the race. But this race has got a lot of controversy again. You know, I think people need to learn how to do the standing starts. There's just not much. I think people are just too keen to basically make up places up from a bad qualifying. I get a reasonably good start, again better than Renault. Go over to the left hand side to cover that. McLaren goes down to the right hand side. He's going to try and go right, but I could see Jonas on the inside. Then I could see it all bunching up, so I take it nice and easy. McLaren goes deep on the outside, and then the Citroen just completely swipes into me, and then I get sandwiched in between 2 cars, nowhere to go. And the game decides I deserve a 5-second penalty for that. So again, straight away off turn 1, I'm on the back foot. You know, I've got a 5-second penalty to try and get rid of, which is pretty much race over pretty much in these top 24 races. Once you've got that at this point, there's not much you can do. All you can do is just try and see if you can get rid of it somehow. But I can't do it at the moment. I've got to try and battle and obviously get myself a little bit further up the grid if possible. You can see looking on the inside, I see McLaren just tried to get rid of some of his penalty, so I went up the inside. He tries to hold it on the outside, I try and hold it on the inside. I've got the line for the corner, a little bit of contact there. Again, he turns in on me there where I don't really understand where I was supposed to go. Then I'm ahead, I can see him in the mirror, but he hits me then on the corner on the apex. Maybe he should have given that up, I don't know, but the game gives me another 5-second penalty, and half a lap into this race I've got 10-second penalties through. I brutally don't think that I really don't think I did much wrong there. I don't know what I was supposed to have done. The first one I got sandwiched after being hit by RC Snake into turn 1 after he started from P20 and tried to get himself up to about P12. This is the kind of racing that needs to be sorted out, and the game this is why the whole penalty system kind of needs to be dropped, because it can't. The system they use cannot judge penalties, and I've heard that there's been a lot of reports recently of people getting kicked out of lobbies through someone hitting them from behind. I hope this isn't the case, but there's been I've seen about 5 or 6 things now on Twitter of someone that's had contact from behind, and they've then obviously been pushed into a car in front of them, and then the game's instantly disconnected them and disqualified them from the race. So that's a little bit worrying. Let's hope that it's not something. Let's just hope it's a bug and that they need to just fix something, because it doesn't sound good, because this game with its current penalty system cannot judge penalties. It just hasn't got the ability to do it. As you can see now, I'm on the back foot straight away. I'm trying to get rid of my penalty already. I'm trying to, once I've got a bit of air in front of me and behind me, I try and get that there to get rid of some of the penalty. I knew I had the pace to get back up to the cars in front, because I knew I didn't really hook on my qualifying lap, and I knew my race pace was fairly good, because my practice race pace was pretty much equal to the Japanese winning the time that won the Japanese lobby's race pace. It was about 2 seconds slower, so I knew in this race I'd have the pace to be at the front. So I knew that I could do that, get rid of my penalty, and then try and get back up to the field. But the only problem with this strategy is I'm going to be burning fuel to obviously get pushed back up to the slipstream of the cars in front. So you'll see at the end of the straights, whenever possible, I'm going to try and get rid of, even if it's just half a tenth, a tenth of a second, just keep trying to get rid of penalty as much as possible. It's not the ideal situation, but I didn't really want to just drop off and get rid of 10-second worth of penalty now, because then I'd have no slipstream to work with. I'll be way down the grid and I'll be finishing pretty much, behind anyone. At least if I do this, I might be able to get rid of all of it by, before the end of the race. And who knows what, at this stage, anything could happen. Force could make a mistake, he could spin, and there could be an incident that he has contact and gets hit. So I just tried to keep my head down and just try and focus on the race, get rid of penalties as much as possible. You can see I've managed to get rid of just over a second, I think about a second of it already. Not a massive amount, but if I can just keep doing this whenever possible, but I've got to try and do it tactically. I didn't want to do it when Jonas was right behind me. I tried to wait until I had obviously a gap to Jonas so that I wouldn't obviously affect him in this braking zone. It's not the ideal situation. It's something they need to look at, because I don't like it when someone's doing it in front of me, but there's no other option. I don't want to be doing it and losing all this position through no real fault of my own. If that would have been myself that had took someone out and I'd got 10 seconds worth of penalty, then I probably would have just took it and been like, well, that was my fault. But there was nothing I could do at that first lap. That was just someone from P20, which I will show you at the end of the race on the highlights. I don't know why he did, because RC Snake in general is a clean. I've never really had an issue with him, but he's obviously got a little bit hot-headed again on these standing starts. And then going into turn 1, trying to make up loads of positions. And again, it was a Citroen. It was a Citroen at Monza, and it's a Citroen at Brazil now that's done the same thing. Not as bad as Monza, but it's affecting my race a lot worse here than it did at Monza, because I didn't pick up any penalties at Monza. Here, I've got 10 seconds worth of penalties, so it's a disaster start. And this is pretty much why I've not gone through to the top 24 races. The World Fantasy C. Trying to get rid of some of the penalty and then give Mura a little tap. That was my fault. Because I'd got trying to get rid of the penalties, I actually ended up braking early and then was able to accelerate into the corner, and it just caught me out of it. I ended up taking more speed than Mura and ended up tapping him, but luckily didn't get anything, and I didn't get anything, so no penalty there. Because it was only a light contact and I tried to avoid it, I braked. If the game senses you normally that you've lifted, it will try and avoid giving you the penalty sometimes, but then you've got the situation when you hit from behind, like at the start of that race. I'm trying to work out if the penalty came from RC Snake hitting me, or if it was when they've both sandwiched me going into the next corner. I can't work it out. It's probably more likely that it was from the contact with myself and McLaren when we've gone into the corner together, because I've obviously been pushed out to the right, and then we've both been pushed together basically because of RC Snake. So that's possibly where the 5-second penalty came from. So it might be that's probably the game probably just doesn't understand situations like that, and that's why I've said it so many times, I said it in numerous videos, I think they need to just bin this whole penalty system off. No one wants to be seeing these races, they're going to be put onto YouTube, these races, and all you're going to see is cars with red penalties. This is not what people want to be watching. You watch iRacing on their races, no one's got penalties because the game doesn't do it like that. The only time you can get a slowdown is if you do a severe cut. Very minor cuts, say if you cut this corner off just enough to give you, on this game, what would give you a second penalty, doesn't really give you any gains. That on iRacing would give you a strike. In a 40-minute race, you'd get 17 of them. So for races like this, which are only about 30 minutes, they could do 15 strikes or 12 strikes or something like that. And if you get 12 of them, you'd be booted out the lobby, and that would be your race over. You'd be disqualified, black flagged. And then you have different levels of contact penalties on iRacing, where you'd have minor contact, and no matter who's the cause of it, whether it's a person in front or behind or whatever, you'd get like ×2 or ×4. If it's severe, like a hard punt, you'll find you'll get ×4. And it really does work, because no one wants to pick up ×4, especially when the track limits are strict, because if you get a ×4 and then you've got to really keep it 100% clean all the way to M through track limits, you're not going to be risking stupid moves. You're going to make a move when you feel a move's on. I think this is the system they need to adopt, because it would probably work also in the lower splits as well, because people will say they'll abuse the situation, but you can't. It doesn't happen on iRacing so much. There might be the odd, there is issues on every system, but you will find that in the lower splits, if people carry on driving aggressively, pushing people out the way, they'll pick up times 8, times 12 penalties within a couple of laps, and they'll be kicked out the lobbies. And that is the best way to make these people learn, I think, is by having a system that is consistent and doesn't change. The system at the moment isn't really consistent in my view. It seems to have gone back to an older system again. It seemed to be okay for a while. The penalties weren't getting too bad for contact, but it seems to have changed again now, where if you're hit, side on or from behind, it gives you a penalty again. So who knows what's going on at the moment with the game. But you see in this race, trying to just sit behind TRR Lightning and still trying to get rid of that penalty. You can see I've managed to get rid of a fair bit of it, and again getting rid of more of it there, and doing it so that I'm not affecting the car behind me. And as you can see there, the Renault completely swiped TRR Lightning off the track there, and I don't know whether it was deliberate or what. He had his hazards on before that incident. I think they've been on for a while in this race, but when I went back and actually watching the replay, the steering inputs go instantly to the right. Like, it doesn't look like he's trying to catch the rear. I really hope that it wasn't deliberate, but it looked really aggressive, and I wasn't too keen on what I saw. But it wasn't nice to see that. But who knows, he might have got a little bit of rear sliding and tried to catch it. It's possible. The Renault RS01 is a tricky car to drive, especially when them tyres are starting to go. We're getting to the end of lap 6, so possibly his tyres are starting to go and it caught him out, and he tried to save it, and it looked like a swipe when it was more just saving the rear. Who knows? But up to P12. So the problem is, though, I've still got a lot of penalty to get rid of, so I've got to kind of just do some fuel saving now as well, because every time I've been trying to get rid of that penalty, I've then had to burn fuel to obviously push back up to the cars in front, which is pretty much just putting me on the back foot right from the start to this point in this race. It's a shame that this is how this race has gone, but it's coming down to qualifying. These top 24 races are all coming down to how you can do your qualifying. I think that any one of these drivers in this race, if they would have put the car on the top 5 in the grid, they would have finished in the top 5. Your race pace is determined by where you qualify, because then you've got a lot of battling. The midfield is so rough in terms of battling. As Jones gives me a little tap there, I don't think it was deliberate. I think I just went into the corner a little bit too hot, and then he's ended up hitting the rear of my car, but nothing massive. Then again, trying to get rid of some of that penalty, as I had a gap to behind me, and this is frustrating because I'm trying to get rid of the penalty, but trying to keep pace, and I don't think I've done a single lap at the moment where I've been able to just drive 100% clean without trying to get rid of the penalty. I'm having to use mixture 2 through that middle sector, which seemed to work quite well in the MG. It worked well in the practice sessions I did, and quite surprised I'm actually up to P12 in this race at this stage, with the amount of braking and lifting off and getting rid of a penalty that I've been doing. It shows you that the pace was there. It's just that obviously with that penalty, it's gonna ruin the end of the race no matter what. I knew that the race was over pretty much from this point now. I could see that Force was quite far ahead, and there's not much I can do. All I can just do is just try and finish this race. To be brutally honest, I wanted this race to finish pretty much after lap 1 when I saw the 10-second penalty. I just got really annoyed again, pretty much like Monza. You can't help but get annoyed in them situations. You want to try and like keep your head calm, but when you've got a 10-second penalty in a top 24 race that is going to decide who goes to the World Finals, and also for myself, there was more to this race than just the top 24 to get into the World Finals. There was a financial gain for me from my esports team, which I won't be getting now, but a little bit disappointed because I feel like over the season I've performed the best out of the Mercedes drive. That's just not myself being the thing. I think if you look at the consistency through all the rounds, I think I've had the most consistent rounds from the start to the finish. But obviously the races that matter, I've had a fair bit of bad luck in, and I think one of them I got a bit of unluck when I came out behind Tidgney in the Tidgney train. I went into the pits right behind Force. He put a little bit less fuel than I did in, and he came out literally half a second to a second and a half ahead of me and got ahead of the train. It's differences like that you can't really foresee, and it's just the way the season's gone. And I'm hoping that next year, when the next official season's on, the one thing I'm going to be working on probably all the way up to then, maybe not for this next FIA season because it's only an exhibition season, it's nothing too important, but after that, when we start getting to the proper pre-seasons and stuff, the main part of my racing that I'm going to be working on is qualifying, because that on these, the way they're doing these lobbies and the way they do these races with them, you know, they're 21 laps, they're not overly long. You know, 21 laps isn't really an endurance race. If you go on iRacing, your basic races on there are normally 40 minutes long, which are longer than this. So qualifying is pretty much the most important part of the game, really, in terms of getting the results, because if you start in P10, you're going to find it so hard, especially on the rolling starts. You're going to find it really, really hard to make progress throughout the race. As you see, TRL Lightning now having a look. I actually put my hazards on there because I was going to let him go past me, but I think he wanted to just use my slipstream a bit. I actually lifted and tried to let him go past, but because I wanted to then just get into his slipstream and just try and work together to try and push up to the cars ahead, but I don't think he realised he did that there. So again, I'm using two mixers to try and save my fuel a bit through this section. I knew that Mercedes was stronger than the Nissan through it because I'd done a practice race with Lightning before this race, and we were very close in that race. We were pretty much identical pace. The Mercedes was probably a stronger car than the GTR, especially through this section. It was able to put the power down really well, but obviously when the tyre, I don't know if they've altered something also on the tyres recently on some of the cars, because the Mercedes doesn't feel as good as it used to be on the tyre. It still feels good, but not as good as it used to be, comparing it to how it was before patch 1.25, I think it was. You can see still managing to hold on to the back of the cars in front, even with trying to get rid of this penalty. I've got it down to 7.7 seconds, so you know, I've managed to get rid of nearly 2.5 seconds worth of penalty, but we're coming up to halfway through the race soon, so it doesn't look like I'm going to be able to get rid of this fully before the end of the race, really. So decided again now, moved over to the right, put my hazards on just to pretty much say, you know, I don't even think I needed to put the hazards on. I just went over to the right and let Lightning take that inside line, giving him the space, tucked in behind him, and then I can just use his slipstream for a couple of laps if possible, if no one tries to make a move on myself, to try and save some fuel, as I got a little bit of a rear sliding through that corner, which was a bit annoying. And now going into one mixture because I've got Oscar Ugo behind me and the other GTR who looks like he's going to try and make a move. He's going to have a little look on that inside, but he's not able to make the move. I go defensive anyway. Compromises the exit speed a bit, but managed to get a reasonable exit from that corner and then got on the power. Going over to the right hand side again to cover that. He's not going to be able to make a move there either. And now I've just got to try and stay with Lightning all the way through to the pit stop phase if possible. But one issue was going to be obviously the fuel when we get to the pit stop phase. I wanted to pit on the end of lap 11 to give myself the better tyres at the end, and also that enables you then to put more fuel in so you can drive a bit more aggressively to the end by obviously revving it a little bit harder. But obviously because I've been lifting off, getting rid of some of my penalty, then having to accelerate harder down the straights, I knew that the fuel wouldn't be as good as possibly some of the other cars around me, but some of the cars I think that went in the end of lap 10 didn't have much fuel again, as I run a fraction wide out of that corner. That's the kind of incident there. I picked up a 1 second penalty because I ran wide out of that corner, got on the dirt, had to lift off, rear goes loose, you gain no time, and that's the kind of incident that is a perfect example of adopting the iRacing system. As you see, some cars going in the pits now with less fuel than what I've got, some going in with about the same, but that's where they need to adopt the system, as Oscar Ugo is going to go for the move on the inside and take that position off me. There's no point in me fighting it. I've just got to try and keep this as clean as possible, really, just so that when we come through to the end of the pit stop phase, I can obviously not lose as much time as possible. But as I was saying, they're the instance of a penalty where they need to really consider just doing some sort of strike system where we have, like, depending on how long the race is, say for your basic daily races, the 13, the 10 lap races, the 9 lap races, give us maybe eight strike systems. So times, maybe I think on GT Sport you might need to lower some of the rates, maybe say times 3 for massive contact, times 2 for medium contact, and slight little taps. I don't, times 1 maybe if there's just tiny little contact. So that'll enable people to race, but obviously it's going to make people more aware of when they could be obviously kicked out of a lobby. But for FIA races like this, the top 24 races, 21 laps, maybe up that to 50, a limit of 15 or 14 or something like that. It can't be a hard system to do because it's so simple. It's just slight contact, medium contact, hard contact. Have your X times X how many you're on. You don't even have to have like any sort of, just have it on like times 1, and then just let it add it up on the top screen so you can see where you are. And then once you know you're close to the limit, and if you're going to pick up another one, you're going to have to drive more cautiously, because picking up a 1 second penalty for running an inch wide and going on the gravel and probably losing time is a bit frustrating, and that's the kind of issue there where there's no time gain. but I think they need to have a look at the penalty system, and hopefully they're going to do this, because they've got a long time now till the next official season. They're going to pits there with reasonable, not too much worse than some of the other drivers, which was actually quite surprising with the situation that obviously having to lift off, then accelerate harder down the straight. So not actually done that bad with the fuel there, and decided to put reasonable amount of fuel, not too much obviously for this next stint, because I didn't want to be sat in the pits for ages, especially with the massive penalty I've got. So I've come out just behind Tiara Lightning. One thing about the Mercedes was that you come out of the pits, you tended to lose out to the GTR. I think it's because of the gearing, the way it gears out of the corner. But you see, I was right behind Oscar Hugo coming out of the pits, and then quite a far behind him now. So coming out in P18, just ahead of the Aston Martin, got that position covered, getting the line into the corner, and now into 18th position. But obviously got fresher tyres than some of the other cars around me, and possibly more fuel, because if they're doing the 11th stint on this one, it means they've got less fuel to work with now to the end of the races. Now straight away getting very close to RC Snake, putting him under pressure. I could see that I had more pace than RC Snake, so I thought that this might be an easier pass out of some of the other passes, because I don't think the Citroen's particularly fast down the straights in the Group 3 cars. It's a bit faster in the Group 4 cars, and I don't think the fuel's particularly great in the Group 3 cars either. But this is one thing I think they could look at in this time now. We've got a long time before the next official season, or the next competition, whatever they're going to run. It'd be nice if they ran some other competitions other than just one FIA official season every year. I'm hoping they'd do something else, other sort of competitions as well in between, championships for us to compete in, where there's actual some form of a prize rather than just attending the World Finals. It would be nice. They've got the setup on this game for it. They've got the ability of the way it's done, in terms of a ranking system. That's getting right behind RC Snake's slipstream, going to the right hand side. He's going to try and outbrake myself. I brake a little bit earlier, undercut on the inside, and that move's done straight away. Nice move, got myself up one position straight away. So that was a fairly easy move to make. I don't know how long, whether he's been on them tyres since lap 9 or 10 or something, I don't really know, but he looks like he was struggling quite a bit through that corner. And I'm straight away then, straight back up to 17 behind Lightning and the other Nissan GTR, as there's a lot of battling going on up ahead. You see RC Miura getting all kinds of sideways then going for that corner, actually loses 2 places to the 2 Nissan GTRs, and it looks like he possibly picked up a penalty through running wide out that corner. It's flashing there, so I think he might have picked up a penalty, but again only 1.2 seconds. Lightning also got, I think, a 3-second penalty, and myself with the increased penalty, it was on 7 seconds, but when I ran wide by about an inch, it got knocked back up to 8.5 or 8.6 seconds. So a little bit frustrating, but not much you can do. The only thing though is I've caught right back up to these now. So with the battling that's going on, this shows you just how much time the battling does lose you, because they battled away for 2 or 3 corners, and that's given me the ability to run right back up to the back of the bumper now and get straight in the slipstream. So this is what I was talking about. If you qualify in the midfield, your pace is just dropped by the battling that's going on, because in general people in the midfield are a little bit more aggressive with the driving, because they want to try and make up their places probably. So then you find that you just lose time constantly, and you see again I'm lifting off really early down the straight to try and get rid of some of that slipstream, but making sure I lift off when I know that the Citroen behind me is not too close, just so that he can't make a move and it's not going to affect him too much. So managing to do that, and just about staying in the slipstream also of the car in front, so trying to do it as tactically as possible. It's losing me about 3-4 tenths of a second every time I'm on that corner, but it's only taking about 2 tenths off sometimes off the penalty systems, off the penalty that I've got. That go seems to lift it off quite a bit. I've got it under 8 seconds there now, so I've got 6 or 7 laps to go, and I've got to try and get rid of 7 seconds penalty. So I think at this stage I was kind of realising that it's just not going to work. I can't get rid of a full second every lap by lifting. If I keep doing this on every opportunity, I'm going to be just dropping further and further back. Even though I know that if I wanted to push, I could push and probably get myself up to, if you look at how much lifting I've had to do, there's 6 or 7 cars just right in front of me. I think I definitely would have been, at least, I think without the penalty at the start, I would have been able to get myself in the top 10 if I could have just not picked up penalties. But obviously that wasn't to be. There was not much I could do about it at the start of the race. I just had to get on with it and just get this race done with. I wanted to just get this race finished and then just start getting back into some of the daily races really. We'll be racing some of the daily races, although like I say with the comment earlier about a lot of people are saying about they're getting their ratings off a Super GT also. on his stream at the Red Bull Ring, went down from an AS to an AB in a matter of a few races. I don't even know if it was one race or a few races, but it's not good to see. There's obviously some sort of issue with the Red Bull Ring that's causing that, so I won't be doing that track in daily races. The worrying thing is though, it's on the FIA race for Wednesday. I will be doing that. It's going to be interesting to see how they do, what they're going to do, if they're going to patch this the track limit situation before that race, which is going to be tomorrow, because everyone is running wide outside of turn 1. If you ever watched my lap, I didn't, so my pace is actually looking a lot better than what it looks, because I've done a lap of, I think it was a 1 minute 28.4, but there was about 2 attempts left in the lap anyway, and also I didn't run wide out, nothing at all wide out of turn 1. I kept it within the limits, so there was at least two attempts by just running wide and keeping on the throttle from doing that. So the pace is looking good, and it's just going to be interesting to see what they do, whether they're going to bring in a my theory is keep the limits strict for myself, because if they do patch it, it won't catch me by surprise. And also, there's still a risk of picking up penalties if you do run that wide line, which I think some people will try and risk. I'm just going to keep it in the limits and just hope to pick up a good result. Obviously as well, a good thing to practice is keeping it strict anyway, because they will patch this at some point at the Red Bull Ring. They're not going to keep that like that. They obviously, I think they've made a mistake in terms of the path of the penalty, because it gives you a penalty if you run like medium wide, but then if you run all the way wide to the wall, it allows it. So there's obviously some sort of something in the pathway of where the limits are determined that they've missed out and they just need to fix. So I don't think it's a massive issue. I would think it would be something that would be really easy to patch in, and I'm surprised they haven't done it already. I thought the patch that was coming out the other day would have, before the top 24 race, I expected that to actually fix that Red Bull limit track issue, but it didn't. As you can see in this race, a lot of battling going up ahead of me, and that's why I was trying to get rid of some of the penalties. I actually got it down to under 7 seconds now, 6.5 seconds. So while they were battling away up front, I thought I can take advantage of this and just try and get rid of some of the penalty. But I needed to try and make sure I stay in the slipstream also, because if I lose that, it could be an issue in terms of fuel down the straights and having to use more fuel up again, as the Citroen right behind me. But look how easy it was to catch them back up, because obviously they're battling away, and Lightning with a massive moment on the rear of that car. That GTR very tricky on the power, compared to some other cars like myself and the AMG, a lot easier to drive this car. But again, easily caught back up to the slipstream of the cars in front, and this is what I was saying, you know, this is what the aim was to do, just to keep getting rid of the penalty and then just use their slipstream to stay with them down the straights. It's coming out the final corner. It's about to start, obviously, to the end of lap 16. It's about to start the end. Pretty much the last few laps now, last 4 or 5 laps in this race. You can see Oscar Ugo just ahead of Lightning in P12, and it's still fairly close. You can see, obviously, the leaders quite far up ahead now, where obviously they've had a clean race. They've been able to drive. You know, you get the field spread that happens when, you know, you can't drive bumper to bumper with cars, and there's 14 cars, you know, more than that in front of myself. Well, 14 cars in front of myself that, you know, you can't go bumper to bumper all the way to the first place. So this is the way racing goes, and I'm hoping that the next season I'll get a bit more luck as well. I think some races I've had reasonable luck in, you know, some stuff has gone my way, but I think in the races that matter in terms of the points, I've just not really had much luck at all. I just think it's just been a disaster pretty much. The top 24 races have been a disaster for myself, every single one of them, round 6, 8 and 10. I don't think I've had any of them go my way. You know, there was potential to score big points at Monza, potential to score big points here, and it just didn't go well at all. As you see, nearly ran wide out the corner. I'm not too sure if I picked up a penalty there. Tried to avoid it, came very close as the rear stepped out, but just got away with that because I tried to keep it. When I could see it going wide, I really put a lot of lock into the steering wheel and actually kicked the rear out, but managed to stop myself picking up that penalty. You know, that's the thing about these. You know, no one wants to get these penalties. So when it does happen, like you end up trying to lift off to avoid picking up the penalty anyway. As you can see, starting to get a bit of understeer in front from the car in front. I have seen that there is obviously effect of the slipstream when you go through the corners. It does state it on the menu. It says obviously loss of downforce will occur when you're in the slipstream of the car in front, so obviously that does happen through corners. I think I mentioned in the previous video, I wasn't sure if it actually happened, but it definitely does. So that's why you get the loss of grip through the corners. So it's interesting they try and simulate that. I'm guessing it's a very basic simulation of that. It's probably not very in depth, the physics for that. It's probably just a percentage that they do for once you're in the slipstream, the downforce gets decreased by a few percent. That's how they probably work it out. it's probably not as in depth as, for example, the new Assetto Corsa game looks extremely in depth for how they're simulating slipstream, aerodynamics, wings, everything. It looks very they're trying to basically create it as realistically as possible. It sounds really interesting. I'm really looking forward to trying that game out. I will be trying that game out tomorrow, hopefully, or whenever, as soon as it's gone on the Steam store. I'm going to be downloading it. It's only a very brief demo to start with, so there's not really going to be much content to come from it. Just a quick try out, see what the physics are like, see how it plays, see if it plays like the original Assetto Corsa, and then I'll be obviously doing a video to give my impressions on that. So check that out. Hopefully it'll be out either Wednesday or Thursday, just for a brief little view of my views on the physics and how it plays, and the visuals as well, and how it's progressing to the original Assetto Corsa. As Lightning runs extremely wide out of that corner, I don't know whether he got a tap going into the corner, but this is playing into my hands in a way, because I'm right back up to him. This is, again, look how much battling goes on in the midfield, and everyone just loses time as Ascaro runs wide out of that corner. That gives me the ability then to go into the slipstream of Lightning. I'm now in the slipstream of Lightning. I think Mura wanted to pick that up, but he looks like, if I was him, I personally would have cut across there and picked up the slipstream, but he didn't do it. I'm now in the slipstream, so I go to go left and he goes to go right. I don't think he realised I was there, so a little bit of coming together, but nothing too bad. That was just a case of both of us coming together. But SR down, so we both get, I think, an SR down there. We're going tight, a little contact from Mura there, and then I go through the corner, and then he swipes at me there, I think. And now, I didn't like that, but we'll have a look at that on the replay. But I pick up another penalty that gets rid of all the work I'd done to get rid of that penalty and puts it back over 10 seconds. So at this stage of the race, I pretty much just gave up and thought, do you know what, I just can't be bothered with trying to get rid of the penalty. It's clearly not going to work. Then RC Snake comes up the inside, knocks me a little bit wide there. Not much I could do again there, because obviously on the back foot from the previous instance. So now everyone's just wanting to obviously battle away to the end of the race, and that I just thought there's no real point in trying to get rid of any sort of penalty. As Mura, I think, might have possibly, I don't know if he let me back past there, whether he realised what he'd done. I don't know whether it was, I don't think it was deliberate, because Mura's a clean driver. He drives fair. Maybe he got a bit of oversteer and clipped the rear of my car, but it nearly sent me completely sideways through that corner. And it looks like he's lifted there to let me back past, so it's a possibility that's what he's done. I really don't know. But you can see Lightning still with that penalty, and myself still back with a massive penalty now. Nothing I could do. It's just gone straight back up over 10 seconds. So the race was over anyway from lap 1. So I knew it pretty much at this point. I'm just racing just for the sake of it. You know, I might as well just try and have some fun now without trying to, you know, get rid of that penalty, and see if I can just get past some of these cars. So I'm going to try and put some pressure on RC Snake going into turn 1. I've already made a move on him once, but he's got the line a bit more covered there. I go to the inside, but not going to try and throw it up the inside there. I know that that's not a move you can make too far back, and now just trying to pick up that slipstream to see if I can just find somewhere else to get past him. Traction's starting to get a bit of an issue now. Obviously still got a bit of grip though, and I've got reasonable fuel, not a massive amount of fuel, but we're going to go. He's going to go defensive now into this corner, into the corner just after the first split. Going through there with my personal best sector, because I haven't lifted off in terms of going in the braking zone. Shows you that even with these worn tyres, I'm putting up a personal best sector now that I'm just trying to drive it, even with battling going on. So this is what I'm saying about the race pace would have been so much better. And having to lift again through the mid of the corner, which then sends the rear out. I'm running fractionally wide because of that. I had to lift mid-corner because Snake lifted, and then that sent the rear, obviously the weight transfer to the rear, started sliding, but just about kept it in its limits again. So close to picking up another penalty, but just about got away with that one again. Putting obviously a lot of pressure on RC Snake. I think his tyres were pretty much dead at this stage. I think he possibly pitted at the end of lap 10, which means he's obviously doing the longest stint this stint, and he's just going to wipe his tyres out. But you can see up ahead, Lightning and Oscar battling away as they go up the hill. As Lightning, a really strange, just seen, he comes out of the corner reasonably okay, and then his rear just went. I have no idea what happened there. Maybe it went from the exit of that final corner, and he obviously tried to catch it, and he just carried on snaking out of the corner. I don't know, but it looked so strange when I was obviously in the race. At first I thought he might have had contact from Oscar, but I don't think it was. As now on the final lap, trying to put RC Snake under some pressure and just seeing if I can get past him. Definitely got the faster car, and going through this corner, he has an issue, and there's nowhere I can go. I end up tapping him in the back of through the corner, but there's nowhere I can go. I'm on the power, and it's just I actually pick up a penalty for that, which is quite comical. But that's the situation with this game at the moment with the penalty system. They need to look in it as Oscaro's Slent goes clean around the outside, but then that gives me the opportunity to go back past RC Snake and try and make a move around the outside of Slent, going through the long right-handers, trying to hold a wide line all the way around the outside. This is going to be really hard. Not really a situation you can make work, but managed to get ahead of RC Snake going into the corner. There's a little bit of contact again there, but I had the higher ground. I now got the inside for this corner, and then going into this corner up here now, I think Snake decides to throw another one of his dive bombs up the inside and swipes into the side of my car. I mean, he obviously just battling away, and there's a bit more contact where the rear goes loose. So really messy end to the lap, pretty much how the race started. And it's just one of them things. I think they just need to look at the way they do in the penalty system, really, because for some people are not getting penalties for doing some things, and then you're getting penalties when you're just driving in a straight line. I've seen another video today on Twitter where a car gets swiped from the side and he picks up a penalty from just driving in a straight line. But then at the end of the race, try and get rid of me penalty, braking here now really early. The penalty doesn't want to go. It just stays on the 12 seconds worth of penalty. It wouldn't go down. So no idea why it wouldn't disappear at the end of the race. It's a strange one. It could be something to do with it, being over 10 seconds. I have no idea why it doesn't do it, but this was a start. Got an okay start. Go to the inside to try and cover off anyone going down the inside. McLaren then goes to the right. I decide to go to the middle of the track to give myself a nice clean line through the corner. Contact up ahead, and then Snake just clean pushes into the side of me, pushes me into McLaren, and then I get sandwiched in between two cars. I actually brake to try and, you know, avoid any sort of incident, but then the game gives me a penalty for that. So again, it's a shame that that's how the game's giving penalties out, through stuff that you can't avoid. Obviously it doesn't hurt, but I feel like Snake really shouldn't have gone for this move. You have a little look here. He's coming from P20. He goes up the inside of Manson, then just pushes straight through, pushes into the back of myself, and I get the penalty of this situation. I'm just sandwiched in between two. So again, not the best of luck, and a situation that I couldn't really avoid. I tried to play it safe into turn one, braking early again, and picked up a penalty. This was the move I tried to make on Lightning, as we both come into contact there, as we both go to cover each other. Obviously he goes to the right, I go to the left, giving him space on the inside there. Slight bit of contact, but it's fairly clean there. It looks like a bit of oversteer by Mura, which hits me, and then I obviously squeeze him out a bit there, and then I don't know if that was deliberate, but he swipes into the rear of my car. Probably more, it could have been oversteer, I don't know, because he seemed like he gave me that position back anyway. But not the best race, not really an enjoyable race. You know, to be put on a 10-second penalty from lap 1, it's so frustrating, because you just can't do anything. You can't attack. You pretty much just sat there trying to get rid of a penalty the whole race, which is disappointing. And it's something I hope they look at for the next official season, because from a spectator's point of view, I don't think anyone wants to see more than half the cars in the race with 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 seconds worth of penalties through stuff that's pretty minor and stuff that can't be avoided sometimes. It needs to be something done. Whether they will do it, who knows. Let's just see if, you know, it's up to Polyphony to act on it. They need to really rework the penalty system. Keep this one for now, and then introduce a better system for the next official season. It really does need to happen. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. I'm not the best performance by myself, but again, not much I could do. And the main aim obviously is now to improve, get faster, get better at the game, and make sure I get myself into the next World Finals. Obviously, there'll be another one in 2019, and I'm going to obviously go at it hard and try and, I will still be doing content for the game all the way up to them, and try and get myself into the World Finals for 2019. Anyway, thanks for watching this video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already subscribed. Click the notification button so you don't miss any future videos. I will be back with more videos on GT Sport. Also, I will be revealing my manufacturer of choice tomorrow. Some people will have probably seen it, but not everyone will know it already. So I'll reveal that in a video tomorrow. Thanks again for watching, everyone.